Hey everybody, welcome to Insider Movies. So, we have two great movies for you today. They are, they're both with Jessica Chastain, and I know for you guys insiders, I do know the background, so I do understand. So there is... But the two movies and the performances in the movies are important. So they are excellent. So I kind of think of her, I was thinking through the movies that she does lately. And she kind of follows along the Demi Moore track where she plays strong woman. Like she doesn't play like the sexualized character. She plays a strong woman like we talked about Demi Moore in Ghost. So she does those kind of strong female characters. What's interesting, though, is where she chooses those roles. Demi Moore got to choose those roles, and those were all big budget films. Big, huge budget films. She could choose those roles like a Few Good Men, and it would be a Hollywood blockbuster. And then she could do Ghost, and it would be a Hollywood blockbuster. She did those roles, and it would just, all of them were big, huge Hollywood blockbusters. She could still choose those roles and still be in these major big budget films. That is not available today. Like now that there's been this, DNC crackdown, and it's been, the media companies have been coalesced into these 6 companies, and they're all controlled by liberals. Like if you noticed, like I was going through the Vogue magazines, if you guys have been following me with the Vogue magazines issues through the Hill and Knowlton, I was paying attention. I was going through the Vogue magazines of the 80s, and they would have like a black woman on the cover of the Vogue magazines in the 80s, like every single year. They always had a woman of color on the Vogue magazine every single year. They always had some woman of color, of a variety of colors. Like they had all different colors on Vogue, like all through the years, up through the 80s and then into the 90s. And then it was amazing because I saw a Vogue cover in, I think it was 2015, and they were like celebrating, and they're like, Vogue has a black woman on the cover for the first time in 5 years. And they were like celebrating that. It was like in France or something. And they were like, oh, France has a black woman on the cover for the first time in 5 years. And France had some of the most amazing black woman covers in the 80s. Like, they were some of my favorite covers. Like, I was like, I want to get that issue and hang it on my wall. Like, they were absolutely fabulous covers. And they all had, that was another thing, is that all of them had natural hair. Like, I don't know what's going on with my hair, but my doctor was like, oh, you like to wear your hair up all the time. And I was like, well, yeah, I do like it out of my face. And she was just kind of like, well, you should cut it short. And I was like, no. Like, not after everything I've seen with Hill Knowlton. Like, I'm keeping my hair as long as I can. I just don't have good hair. Like, because of my illness and everything, I have horrible, horrible hair. But I was just like, well, if I can ever wear it down, I try and wear it down for you guys. This is as good as my hair ever gets. So I, like, try and wear it down for you. You guys know that. If you've been following me from the beginning, you know I try to wear it down if I possibly can. So this is the closest I can get. But there's no way I'm cutting my hair. Not in Hill Knowlton times where they're like trying to get us to like do all this stuff. There is no freaking way. Have you noticed like the in-style haircut has been short for how long now? For how long? So they're having crazy time because I'm filming. So the kittens, if you don't know who my crazy cats are, there. So anyway, so it is really interesting to me. I was like, right, 2015, right, when that's just Tassie's very talkative. They're doing their crazy time with Tiberius. They're literally chasing right now. So it was amazing to me to see. I was like, right, they haven't had a woman on the cover when the liberals are in charge, when the liberal media is in charge, because it's not conservatives when it can, consolidated into those 6 media companies. The head of those companies, like Eisner and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, like I've already proved in my research, like who owns every single one of them. Like the Rothschilds actually say it right on their website. If you go into their website, you go into it, Reuters and everything, it says right there, like it's boom. And it's like you can prove it. You got to click on it. So they make you dig, but it's there. And so the whole 9 yards, like if you go into it and everything, like it's all ultra liberal, ultra leftist people that own the media. And when it consolidated into those 6 companies, yeah, all of a sudden, like the black faces just disappeared and the female faces just disappeared. Think about it. In the 80s, we used to have Golden Girls, you know, female, we used to have Murder, She Wrote. We even used to have a range of ages. Like, I was doing research for this article, and I couldn't believe, like, there are liberal writers out there, like Aaron Sorkin, and he's a liberal, like, he's a total leftist or whatever, and he was being attacked by young kids. And I was like, even though he's on their side, they were, like, ripping apart his writing, which was ridiculous because they're terrible writers. But I was like, the only reason they're doing that is because he's older and he's more successful than they are. It was literally narcissistic rage. And I was like, yeah, the ageism is ridiculous. Like, ridiculous. It's just so sad because there isn't any age on there. There's not a range of ages that's being portrayed on television or media or anything. It's just young, hot models all the time, and there's no range, you know, and stuff. It's really, really, really sad. We don't see, like, us up there. We don't see, we only see an agenda up there. It's only ever propaganda up there. And when they do that, then what we don't get to see is, like, even when it's not, you guys saw the Blade Runner thing. You saw the Blade Runner thing. Like, it's just so sad because women are being minimized. And sometimes I think they do it to be like, oh yeah, women really are minimized in society. I'm like, you guys are the ones doing it. Like, that's what we're learning in our research is just like the Democrats do it and then they campaign on it. Like, they do it and then they campaign on it. They run women out of Hollywood and then they campaign on it. They run blacks out of Hollywood. Like, we used to have all these black shows like The Cosby Show and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and all these things. And we used to have the number one show used to be The Bodyguard, and we used to have all these things. And now, and Glory, all black cast, everything, Oscars, everything like that. And now, nope, nothing like that. They won't even promote a black movie. Won't even do it. George Lucas had to sell off Star Wars just to make a black movie, and then Hollywood refused to promote it. Yep, nope. All of their roots are showing, and yep. And then they say, oh, society's so racist and bigoted. And it's like, you're the ones doing it. Like, you're the one, you campaign, and then they campaign on it. It's really, really sad. It's really sad. So anyway, Jessica Chastain gets to do the same roles that Demi Moore did, but she doesn't get to do them in blockbuster movies. That's what's really sad. That's what's really, really, really sad, is that she doesn't get to do them in blockbuster movies. So the reason I was saying in the beginning, like, I know because we have a lot of Hollywood royalty who watches and just a lot of Hollywood insiders. So she is just bomb on the screen. Like, I love her on the screen. And so it kind of broke my heart because she plays boss, what you would say boss characters are. Like, for me, the most boss she's ever played, like, my hero is the character she plays in Miss Sloane. Like, Miss Sloane, like, right now, like, Miss Sloane, she's Miss Sloane is my jam. Miss Sloane is my jam. I'm like, yes, Miss Sloane. Like, that yes. Yes, Miss Sloane. Yes. Yes. That is how you play the game. And I think I know what bill it actually passed because it's based on true events. And I think I figured out what bill was passed with it because it's about a game that was played in Congress. And I think I know what bill was passed. And it was a very good point. Okay, so I need to start from the beginning. Anyway, so the point is that Jessica Chastain, she may or may not be what some people would say in the industry, like the more boss or experienced people in the industry. They may or may not like in working with her, like they may or may not enjoy working with her. And that's unfortunate if in fact that's true. If in fact it may not be true, who knows? It may not be true. And so, but when there are people like that, where, when that happens, hypothetically speaking, there's a setup in Hollywood now where as a woman, there's kind of like 3 ways to get up in Hollywood, right? As a woman, there's 3 ways to get up in Hollywood. You either get up by sleeping with men, like just being their toy, and you get up, but you'll never get up that high. And when you be their toy, you have to go into those, underground you-know-whats, and you have to do the freaking, and there are women on big screens that you have seen that have to do the dirty stuff, and they do it. All right, so that's one way to get up. The other way to get up is, I'm gonna say, I don't know if I could say all this stuff, but I'm like, it's all out there on YouTube. So anyway, like the good stuff isn't like the dirty stuff is. So anyway, the second way to get up is if you think you're acting like a man, like you're just like, I'm acting like a man, but really what you're doing is you're acting like bossy, or not bossy, but you're brutal, like whatchamacallit, there was a woman who did it, and she won. She was in The Fighter. Oh, and she fought, but you can't find her much anymore. Like, she fought to the top, and you could see it. She got up there, and she won that award. And I remember when she won that award. I just watched, and I was like, you enjoy that award, honey. You enjoy that award, honey, because the things you had to do, Hollywood's remembering. And you just enjoy it, because the favors you got and the things that you got, it's going to run out in just a few years' time. And then you're going to have to go into obscurity for a good 10 years, 5, whatever years, and they're going to make you pay for it, for what you did to get there. I was just like, we're just going to watch. I was like, it ain't worth it what you did. Maybe you got that statue. Ooh, you got that statue. But what you did, you're going to pay for it, because every single person remembers what you did. Every single person. Because that's not boss. Like, doing what you did and stuff like that. Because you just trampled on everybody. Like, you just trampled on everybody and just kicked and screamed it. And you were just like, you were like, I deserve it. And you may have deserved it. And you may have fought for it. But it's kind of like, that's the Jay Leno way of doing things. There's the Jay Leno way of doing things. And Jay Leno may be successful, but that doesn't mean he's respected. And at the end of the day, you got to live in Hollywood. At the end of the day, the waiter's got to like you. End of the day. You gotta think. You live in a community. You're not an island. And then there's the third way to get up. The third way to get up is kind of like, the third way to get up is you do kind of like the thing that we learned in Working Girl, which is you use what you got because you're a woman. Men use what they got because they're a man. Women use what they got because they're a woman, and they use it. And they use their inner, what I read a book once, and it was talking about the mystery of a woman, and I just didn't understand that. I couldn't understand it for the life of me. I was kind of upset about it. I didn't understand it, and I was just kind of like, I don't get it. I get it now. Oh, I get it now. Because I was like, I don't have any kind of I don't have any kind of mystery. Like, I was like, I'm all out there, because all the women around me were all like meek and mild, and I just happened to be in a community like that. And I wasn't. I was like, So I was like, what mystery is there to me? I'm like an open book. Well, that's just because I had really bad boundaries. I had extremely bad boundaries. I didn't have like any walls up. I didn't let my trust build. Do you know what I mean? I didn't like put any walls up and learn to like, not let people in. And I remember remember very clearly when I had to learn that. I very clearly remember learning to, like, my first wall that I had to learn was learning that a boyfriend, like, I always thought a boyfriend was just physical, like just holding hands and what you do physically. That's a boyfriend. And I remember very clearly learning that intimacy with a guy is not just touching. Intimacy with a guy is also like what you tell them. So what you share with them. You can get emotionally entangled, and you can be dating them by what you share with them. And that's why it hurts when they talk to other girls or do other things with other girls. And that's why it hurts. And I would get depressed or whatever, and they'd be like, well, you shared this much. And there are guys, oh, girls, I know you know these guys. There are guys that will want all that from you. And they've got like 5 girls that they do all that with. And they don't touch you, but they get all of that stuff from you because it's your mystery. And they love it. And they kind of get super close to you. No, like that's dating you. It's still dating you. It's still intimacy. And so I remember choosing the things in my life that I would not share unless I was dating. Because there was some, all of us have certain things that were like dark, especially with my family. Especially with my family. So I was like, all right, here we go. So I did. And it was, oh my gosh, it saved me. It saved me. It saved me. It saved me. Everything changed after that. Everything changed after that. Woo-wee, things changed after that. Very, very, very different life after that. Very different life. So, boundaries and everything. I don't know how I got into boundaries. Where did I get on boundaries? I'm going to have to pause again. Right, The Mystery of a Woman. So, yeah, when you watch, like, documentaries, like I was watching one about an honor killing recently, and the young man was like, she just walked in the room, and I was like, bam, like, whoa, like, bam, like, she just... Bam, like, oh man, like, what guy has her? She just, bam. You don't hear girls talk like that when the girls are like, oh, he fine, like, he just, oh, and they can tell you exactly what's fine about him, like, look at his chin, look at his butt, like, you just know, yum, like, you don't go, oh, wow, he just hit me, pal, like, no, nothing like that, like, there isn't some inner quality, you can see his strength or whatever, but it is a very different thing when men get hit by a woman, like, when they talk about it, even Jerry Weintraub on his thing, there's this thing that happens with men see the girl of their dreams or whatever. There's this like whammo, and they can't explain it. And it's they say she's beautiful, but they usually talk about something, just the girl walked in and they were just hit by a lightning bolt. And that's the inner quality. And you use that because only, we women have it, and men have their own things. They have their own strengths or whatever. They have their masculinity and their strength, and they use that and stuff in the boardroom and stuff like that. But we use what we got, and so we go and we use that, and so like I love it. Like Amy Adams had this one thing. Like I didn't understand it until the Me Too movement, but she had this quote that they all love to use with American Hustle. And the director loved to quote it after American Hustle because she got really great reviews after it. And she did all these sexy things. And he's like, oh, there's this one quote that I love that she said, I'll do anything you want me to do between action and cut. And after Me Too, I was like, wow, that quote makes a lot more sense now. Because I recognize a boss quote when I hear it. That's the action of a third type of woman. Like, that's a third, not type of woman, but a third type of way of moving up. It's the way you say no to things. You use, like, you don't say, like, no, I'm not going to do that. You just say, honey, I'm going to give you whatever you want. I'll give you whatever you want. I'll give you whatever you want. I'm going to give you whatever you want. Yep. Between action and cut, sweetie. Where in the world is that? Like, do you see that is, you put a boundary and it's still, like, it keeps it on board. It keeps it above board. It's not coming onto them. It's just being like, I got you. And I'll play along with you. I've got it. Oh, do I ever have it? Oh, I've got it. I've got what you want. And you can actually see it, but you're going to have to actually hire me to get it. Sorry. And you leave them wanting more. Like, that's a way you like, that's the third way. You play it smart and you meet them at their level and you don't treat them like crap for like doing their thing or whatever. You have to understand like, I'm not saying like, They violate you, they violate you. But if they come onto you, there's a way to brush it off, if that makes sense. There's a way to say no, if that makes sense. If they put their hand down your blouse, we've got a different question. Like, I am not talking about that. Like, learn the sexual harassment laws. Like, I went off on Glamour Magazine. I went off on Glamour Magazine on Twitter. Like, oh, I went off on them because they were saying, oh, go attack your bosses. Go attack your bosses if they don't know about the Me Too movement. And I went off, if you guys saw it. I went off. And I was like, oh, see how this, because they're not saying a word about knowing the sexual harassment laws. Like, why would you ever, these guys, what you didn't say, see if they know the training, see if they've been through sexual harassment training, see if they know the laws. Like, how is that empowering women? And it was so amazing because 3 days later, they were saying, like, do you know your Me Too movement? Know your sexual harassment laws. The first step is knowing your sexual harassment laws. And I was like, the entire Me Too movement, I've never seen them do that. But I'm kind of wondering if it's because of the reality, because I kind of like just tagged a bunch of I don't know. But whatever it is, I don't know. So I'm just wondering. Anyway, I'm seeing changes, and it just happens to be around the time as I'm screaming, and so I just get excited. So I'm just happy they're changing. I'm happy they're changing because frickin' women need to know it. Like, I've been talking to women, and they said, like, you would be amazed at the conversations I'm having, and they don't even know the sexual harassment laws are on the books. Like, that saved me in college. The women's clinics where they just sat you down and they would just explain to you. They had a pamphlet and they explained it to you and they told me what it was and they told me what it wasn't. There are no communities out there that did that. And they don't do that anymore. Like, so I'd be like, well, I was in this situation. They'd be like, okay, well, that would apply here. And didn't push me. It didn't do this to me. It was a very quiet, a safe space. It was very quiet, very quiet. You could just walk in and they just respected you, and you could just walk out, and it was like walking into a lawyer's office. You just walk in, they gave you the details, you could give your experience, and they could line you up with the laws and line you up with this, and then you'd be thankful, and then you'd walk away. And that was so good because I knew from then on, I knew what the laws were. Not only that, but I knew what my boundaries needed to be. I'd be like, you're violating the law, and I could get out of there because I needed to know. Because I was so harmed, from being, in the house that I was in, which included, unfortunately, sexual abuse. So I didn't even know. That's why I went in there, because some guy did something to me and I asked somebody and I was just like, what do you think of that? And they're like, I think you were sexually harassed. And I was like, what? Well, if that's sexual harassment, what the heck was this? And they were like, and so that's what I eventually went to the clinic, and I found out, and I could line up all my experiences with and from then on, I knew what situations to remove myself from. Does that make sense? Instead of feeling like I had to stay. It was so helpful. Because girls feel like that's the power play. They feel like they have to stay. So many Me Too stories that are coming out, the girls think they have to stay. We need to get on to the movies. Okay, so the first one is Jessica Chastain. She's known for The Help. The Help. And that was really big. She played like this what can only be explained as a light. Just a light, beaming, bright light. And of course, they made it seem like the South hated a bright light, which is kind of funny because the South is now where the beaming bright lights are, if you notice. Like, that's where women are dressed the loudest, ironically. So it's always, it was really shocking to me. I do want to tell you guys, speaking of what the left lies about, I'm finding out that actually the majority of the slaves were up in the North. And I was like, that explains so much, because the first time we heard the phrase, like the first time we heard the N word, like really used, like when we did our travels and everything like that, we were told like not to visit a certain place because and that was in the North. that wasn't in the South. It scared us. Like the North was really, like the South was really pleasant and lovely and like just greeted us and just warm. And one of the things that I really loved in California, all the men looked at my boobs all the time. And when I went to the South, not a single man would drop their gaze to my breasts, ever. Not one man in the entire South dropped their gaze to my breasts. We crossed the line to the North and it was like, vroom, like, vroom, like, all the bathrooms closed to you, and everyone was just angry in a bad mood, and it was real black, and it was just dark, and we were just like, not in the South anymore. And then we heard that thing said, and we just were like, what? Where are we? And finally, when Dinesh was doing some of his research, I was like, and now it's years later, and I'm just like, it finally felt so good to like understand it, because we just couldn't understand it. We felt like, but this is what freed them. How are we hearing this here? We were just like, how? It was really, really rough. Really, really disturbing. It felt like all of your history, you know, we were so rooted in that history. It really shook us. I don't know how to explain it, because let me tell you, like, they weren't that old, and God, now that I remember it, if you look at the states, it's like lowest birth rates, total liberal state. Wow. All right. Let's see here. So Molly's Game is the first one. Ironically, it was a Republican that's on tour that suggested it. When it was written by a liberal, it was written by Aaron Sorkin. So get this. Aaron Sorkin, an ultra-liberal, wrote Molly's Game and directed it. And it was recommended by, I forget his name. It was the first time I'd ever watched anything with him. It was really weird, but I was like, I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to listen to more. Like, I'm trying to listen to all sides. And so I watched, I can't even say the name, like I watched New, but I know, I'm like, that's programming. So I watched Newt Gingrich for the first time. And it's programming. But I watched him I watched a little radio interview. And he said, watch Molly's Game. He said it's how the FBI, I can't do it. He said, watch how the FBI handles people's cases. And I was just like, actually, I'd really wanted to see that movie. And it turned out I'd actually already seen it, but it's such a good movie that I watched it again anyway. And I watched it, and it was written by, and I think it's hysterical that this, the Republican guy, he's around campaigning for Republicans right now, recommended this thing that a liberal wrote and directed. And while I'm watching it, I'm like, I know this guy just wrote 2017, so that means I was like, what is the thing? But I noticed that, yeah, the FBI was in it, and the FBI did some really crazy stuff, but he does not go after the FBI in it, and he could have, and he should have. He really didn't touch the FBI. And I mean, the FBI really wronged her. I mean, they really praised her, and I felt like, okay, maybe it's more of a feminist movie, like a feminine power movie, but you could feel that the movie was lopsided somehow. And that's because there's supposed to be in a movie a protagonist and antagonist. And Sorkin was not really willing to go after the antagonist. Like, he was not willing to touch the FBI. Because right now the FBI is going after the guy he hates the most in the world. Apparently, the POTUS, who he said in a letter to his daughters, was like, you know, someone that KKK members follow. And I was just like, except the ones you guys hire to wear KKK shirts, right? Like, you should really look to yourself. Like, really, really, really look to yourself before you cast stones. Like, but they're so used to winning. Like, they're so used to, they're in such a huge echo chamber. Like, no one on the other side speaks. Like, do you think anyone in his world ever disagrees with him? How many people do you think he knows that actually disagree with him? Like, there was someone that just said that in Hollywood, the people who are conservative wear black. I'm going to have to ask my friends if they wear black coats. Oh my God. Because we're all like online. Like I said, we just never talked politics before. We still kind of don't. We talk about my health and their lives. All right. Mostly we talk politics. We're like, oh my God, can you believe this? Because we're looking through the research. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's usually our discussion about politics. Oh my God. Like the sanctuary states today. Oh my God. There are 12 and Google hit it. Oh my God. Like, yeah, we would never get to black coats. I better ask them. Okay, I'm getting a little worried. All right. So anyway, Molly's Game is really good, but I want you to pay attention. Like, I was thinking about it right before doing this video, and I was like, yeah, I really could tell he laid off, because even the guys he had do the FBI, he had the most unassuming, like, wimpy looking guys ever. Like, you could put a big loaf of Wonder Bread. Thunk. You might as well have had a loaf of Wonder Bread interviewing her. That is how potent these FBI agents were. And that is not what they were to her in any way, shape, or form. He had Wonder Bread interview her. And I'm just like, you will not look to your own. And that shows you that they're his own. That the FBI is with that side. Because I'm like, wow, you wouldn't even criticize the people that went after her. You would only lift her up, but you wouldn't go after who went after her. Which I find fascinating. And the fact that he did it makes me just think he's one of her clients. Like helping out a friend. Like helping out Molly. Because she was the good girl. She didn't give up any names. And she went ahead. And I think that the judge, like going ahead and letting her off. You know why she did that? It just clicked for me why she did that. Because it made her seem like a hero. And like this big hero. And just stick through and like don't cop to any names or anything like that. No. No. That girl was smart. That judge has connections. That, because I know I'm an insider. I know how I would work it. I know exactly how I know, not that I'd work it, but I know that if ever something happened to me and I had to go in front of a judge, you don't think my friends would be talking to him? I'm just saying, like, you don't think maybe they would lay off the justice system because they know I'd want him to, but she wouldn't. I don't think she had those kind of ethics, knowing her game. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm sure, because we know from the justice system, it does not work that way in front of a judge at all, ever. And there is an unassumed, like, I know that world. Like, if you read Jerry Weintraub's book, God, I just got it. Because I was like, what is the catch? What is the catch? There's always a catch. There's always programming. I've learned from the left, there's always a catch. And that's the catch. That's the catch. They made some girl that towed the line and got a favor and got off because she did a favor and got totally clean off, which she should have been totally clean off or whatever. She shouldn't have been prosecuted or whatever. But she got totally clean off, not because the judge thought that she was an angel. She got off because of her connections. Because either the judge was in the game and she knew it, 9 out of 10, or, you know, friends talked. Because it doesn't look good on his record when he does something like that. Man, that's dirty. That's dirty. And Aaron Sorkin made it look like she was a holier than thou. Wow. Because I could not figure it out. And I just figured it out. Because I was like, this just doesn't fit with everything we know. Like, it does not fit. It does not fit. At all. At all with everything we know about the FBI. Like, they own those judges. And those judges, if we've seen the sentences being given to, if you don't have any protection, and that's the point, is she had protection. She had protection. She had protection. Like, Like, you don't think Jerry Weintraub, if he got in trouble with the mafia somewhere, like, let's say that he was, like, going through Timbuktu or whatever, and he got in a scuffle with the gang, and something happened, and he got thrown into a back room or whatever, and they were like, where are you from? And he's like, I'm from this city or whatever, and they'd call over there. You don't think the mafia boss over there would be like, don't touch him? That's just the way the game is played when you play at that high level. God, they are so awful to tell normal everyday citizens that you have a chance if you do the right thing and just don't fight. Which you do. You may have a chance if you don't fight. But a lot of people go to jail and get horrible things. Horrible things. I mean, that's what Dinesh D'Souza found out in his thing. He found out there's a lot of innocent people in jail because the FBI is really corrupt. And Aaron Sorkin decided not to show that side. And that's the real travesty of the movie. But it's a good movie. And I think it's interesting that someone on the right actually said it shows a change in Newt Gingrich for sure. I could see that he shifted. He has very, very, very different, because when I was way younger, I heard him with Bush a little bit on the news, like when I was at my parents' house or whatever. And very different rhetoric now. Very different rhetoric. But he's still protecting the GOP, which is unfortunate. So, but he had different rhetoric, and he said, if you want to know what the FBI is like, watch Molly's Game. And so I was like, all right. And the thing is, Molly Games doesn't out them, but if you pay attention, like really pay attention, you start realizing all these movies do have the FBI doing that. And then you start thinking about what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be protecting the kids and like going after all the tips that they get and not dropping them. And like, you're like, what are they doing this? This is a waste of their time. You know, and just skimming money off the top. Really eye-opening. So in that, but you got to look for it. You know what I mean? She has the other part of it is that it's just a good movie. Both of these movies are made in 2017 and they're actually good movies. And you can see that in the reviews, some of the Amazon reviews. You can't trust Amazon reviews anymore. They're all 5 stars. And now that we know about the astroturfing networks, you know why. Like AstroTurf, all the reviews are AstroTurf. So there were some reviews that were just like, finally a good movie. So I was like, wow, that's what I think. So I was like, maybe that's real. I don't know. But usually AstroTurfing is just like, amazing movie. And and it's not like the other reviews say. So, you know. All right. So the next one is Miss Sloane, which is my favorite of the two. And all I have to say about that is that it is about how a certain piece of legislation may or may not, it's how a certain piece of legislation goes through Congress and how a lobbyist gets a piece of legislation through Congress. And it's about how a certain piece of legislation got through Congress through a lobbyist. And it mirrors a piece of legislation. Like, it surprises you at the end. It was like, this actually happened based on something else. Now, if you want to pause and go watch the movie and miss out, like, on and then watch the movie and try and guess it yourself, that's fine. So, I'll give you a moment. But I'm going to tell you what I think it is. Because I thought about it for a while. Because I was like, I want to know. I want to know what it was that did this. Because it was clear that the lobbyist didn't want this. Like, she went against the lobbyist. I love it. You'll see why. You'll see why. You'll see why. Oh, and her dress. Oh, fabulous fashion. All right. Now you can come back. All right. So, in it, I think it was about the Credit Protection Act, not the Credit Financial Protection Bureau, which took all the teeth out of the credit. It like reversed it. It completely reversed the Credit Protection Act. All the things we got in that Credit Protection Act, it undid. Like, way to go, Elizabeth Warren. Took out everything. All of our protections, you just wiped out. Thank you. And you did all those nice speeches with the banks you like set up beforehand and made it look like you hated them. And then, yeah, you just undid all of our protections. Thanks, Elizabeth Warren. You're great. So, must be nice having $11 million to your name. Could use it for good. Could have used it for good. Could have used it for good. Nope. So just watch that interview that she did where she's like explaining. You watch those things where she interviews like the members of Congress. Like she goes after them. Like, oh, I'm really mad on behalf of the American people, blah, blah, blah. And then she gets grilled by Jason Chavez and Trey Gowdy. Like with Jason Chavez over the Credit Financial Bureau of like what it's set up for. And she's just like, what's a triangle? I don't know. How do you spell ABC? Like it is, and it just, the mask just gets ripped off. And you realize it was all an act. Just for the people to think that she was a hero. And the media splashed those other clips everywhere and hid these clips. And it was just, they always say one thing when it actually is the opposite. They always say yes when they mean no. They say they're for kids when they're actually trafficking them. It's always the opposite. Like one guy, they found a bunch of trafficking, and it was actually in his city. There was a ton of trafficking going on, and in his bio on his Twitter account, it was like making a city for kids, hoping to make a better city for kids, for safe kids to run freely. Like he actually put it in his bio where they found all the kid cells for trafficking kids. And I was like, every single time they say exactly what they're the opposite of. It's so sick. There's like a name for it. I can't remember it. So anyway, Miss Sloane is great. So I think it's about the Credit Financial Protection Act. They do in the movie about like the gun lobby or something like that. They do the gun lobby, which is like it's impossible to go against the gun lobby, right? And I was just like, well, what lobby is as big as the gun lobby? And then I was like, oh my gosh, the banks and the credit cards. And I think that was it. The thing that protected citizens and actually protected us and didn't let our credit cards go above 35%. You know, it stopped us from having it be above like 35% or 25%. Like, you know, all these rates, and it set our rates, and they had to inform us, and they had to mail it out 2 weeks in advance, and all these rules to protect us, and saying like, if you pay this much, but if you pay $2 more, you actually pay it off 3 years earlier. You know, if you pay $2 more a month, you'll pay it off 2 years earlier. Like all of these rules they applied. And I think that was the bill. I could be wrong, though. I have specifically not asked into that because I don't want to know. I kind of don't want to ruin the movie. I just kind of have this little thing in my heart. I'm like, I think it's that. But anyway, she's just freaking bomb dresser in that and bomb actress in that. And it's just my favorite little movie because I feel like I want to be her. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I relate to the character a lot. Let's just put it that way. Like remember how I said there's like, you'll see it. Tell me what you think. You go watch Miss Sloane and you tell me what you think. You tell me what you think. Follow your excitement. Yes. Tell me what you think. Yeah, tell me what you think. You'll see the difference between the meek and mild versus the definitely in the Matt movie. Definitely in that movie. Definitely in that movie. Do you remember how I said there is a difference between breaking the rules? Jordan Peterson said the hero breaks the rules. Harry Potter breaks the rules. Harry Potter has to break the rules in order to save the day. Do you remember how he said you can have a hero has the ability to be the monster? He has the ability, he has the strength, he has the ability to be the monster, but he chooses not to be the monster. And I said the difference is when you make the choices, you make the hard choices, is when you break the rules. Do you break the rules? Who do you break the rules for? Who do you break the rules for? And There are people out there who say they're breaking it for everyone else, but really it's for themselves, you know, for ego. Someone said something amazing to me once. They said, if you're about to confront somebody, how do you know it's the right thing to do? How do you know it's right to confront them? How do you know you're doing it from the right place? And they said, you know it's from the right place because you're not excited about doing it. Like if you're looking forward to confronting them, like if you're like, yeah, then it's for the wrong reasons. You're out to get them or something. But if you're heartbroken about it, or if you're just not looking forward to it because you know it's going to be painful, or you're just like, oh, I hate having to do this, you're coming from the right place. It's the same thing with breaking the rules. You don't, it sucks. You don't want to. And in a perfect world, you wouldn't have to. And you do it with great control, thought, and effort. And you'll see that in Miss Sloane. There has to be a thought of others and the consequences coming out of it, instead of a thought of just self. And that really separates you out from the pack. When you know it's the right thing to do to protect others or to protect history. I thought it was interesting that our library books are being sold off and excavated from the libraries. And I was like, oh my God, how's that any different than book burning? Mm-hmm. Being nice and being kind. Being sweet, subtle, and gentle. There's a time and place for everything. But these two movies are going to show you when there's a time and a place for other things. And I am not saying that I'm a proponent of Molly's game. Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. I think that she was pouting. And I think she was everything her father says. I think that we make choices and decisions and we have to live with them. But had I made the same decisions, I would have probably done the same thing. But I want you to enjoy the acting. I want you to enjoy, they're both excellent scripts. And they're both true to what's going on in society today. And that's what I wanted to share with you, is two movies that are based in real life today that are absolutely incredible movies. They're absolutely entertaining. They're absolutely well acted. It's going to kind of throw you for a loop because you're not going to be used to that at all. It's not what you're going to be used to. It's going to be really good. It's kind of nice. And people treat each other like equals just like they do out in the real world and all that kind of stuff. It's absent of all the programming for the most part. And that's kind of rare. It's almost impossible to find. I mean, there's some in both of them, but it's much less on a much smaller scale than others, which just makes them kind of gems in today's landscape. And you guys know I like to give you a variety. So there you go. I love Miss Sloane. I love Miss Sloane. And like, if if you want like a modern day like ninja, like yeah. She's like the anti-law inspiration, I guess. I don't know. Just want to dress something. I don't know. All right. It's late. I will let you go. I love you guys. Bye. Enjoy. Have a great weekend.